Other news now, self-claimed leader of the National Christian Resistance Movement, Harry Johannes Knussen, has appeared at the Middelburg Regional Court today. The second suspect, Rihanna Heymans, was also arrested with two accomplices, Eric Abrams and Errol Abrams, in Klipprivier, are also in court. Heymans is believed to have links to Knussen, who was arrested at his home last week and charged for terrorism-related activities. He's accused of plotting to target national key points, shopping malls, and informal settlements. Authorities uncovered a possible explosives factory, unlicensed firearms, ammunition, documents and electronic devices. Aaron Bates spoke to author Karen Mitchell about the psychology of extremist groups.
This is a nationwide movement, a white supremacist, racist movement, as is clear from some of Knussen's posts about a white race and his theology, as it were. And I'm joined now by journalist and author Karen Mitchell. She was in court with me this morning, Tumelo, and she has some insight into how white supremacist, racist movements in South Africa operate, in this case the Boeremag. So Karen, just to get some comparison on this movement and what you've learned about the Boeremag through your research.
Yeah, first impression was I was shocked to see that another big national movement, a right-wing movement, came out of the caves. It basically crawled out, and I couldn't believe, after spending so much time covering the Boeremag trial, I mean, these people's lives were put on a halt and their families were destroyed for over 12 years, and to basically see that the same thing was happening when this should have served as an example. What's interesting with trying to draw parallels at the moment, the main thing is, if it's a nationwide structure, there has to have been an established network. It's a lot of people that are involved, and it's also, you don't know what the people on the ground were being told they were getting involved with. It could have been with the group being called the National Christian Resistance Movement, that they were trying to hook people with the Christianity hook of it, but they didn't know that it was such a racist movement. And at the moment, I mean, details are still very few at this stage, and we'll figure it out as we hear more.
But in your work, you worked with someone who was an insider in the Boeremag, but an investigator working to bring terrorists to account. How does that sort of information come through to the authorities? We know in this case the Hawks, National Crime Intelligence and Crimes Against the State squad were all involved.
Yeah, so basically the lead investigator on the Boeremag trial, he was called out to a particular crime scene, and then a few months later another crime scene happened, and suddenly they realized, hold on, there's the same modus operandi happening here. And it was a case of them literally having to link 3 or 4 dockets at the same time until they had enough evidence to basically establish, listen guys, these are all one group that's operating with the same ideals.
And in this case, we understand that the plan was to hit highly populated areas on Black Friday, informal settlements, shopping malls, and then, of course, distinct from those two, national key points. So how do you think, or what have you gathered from speaking to some of the investigators, was the tip-off here to prevent those planned murders?
I certainly think that with them perhaps receiving a tip-off that this was going to happen on Black Friday, they might only have gotten these guys on their radar, wouldn't have been too worried about them yet, but the moment they heard, listen, there's something planned for tomorrow, they probably had no choice but to go and arrest them, even though nothing has happened yet. But that is what these authorities do on a daily basis, and we don't realize it as South Africans how much they are doing in the background to actually keep you and I and everybody around us safe on the streets, to be able to not be threatened by racists or right-wingers.
Karen, before we went on air, I did ask you what's the most surprising, or perhaps in light of your answer, unsurprising thing about your research into the Boeremag, and perhaps what you've reflected on after today's court appearance.
It's literally, these men were average, normal men. They could have been your grandfather, it could have been my father. I mean, all of these men have children they've been to university now, life is continuing as normal. These people were not your cut-out picture of a white supremacist. They were normal, average men with wives and children at home, and that